$586, which was what last year's number was. This year's number we got within $111, so it's $12,621 and $12,621,697. What that came to is $876,909 of local taxes that was cut from the budget, which was all out of capital outlay. And then $482,299 was lost in state aid. So when you look at the total savings to our local taxpayers is $876,909. What we lost was $482,299 we lost in state aid. That's not going to be a tax savings because we'll still pay those taxes. It just goes to the state and it's not reimbursed to us in the local community. So in theory, we lost $482,299, which is not a tax savings. The $876,909 is. So we got as close to that number we talked, and it really goes into the program, and then the decimals go out. That's why it's $111 difference. It's not that we were trying to save $111.
Thank you, Dr. Ruth. I do have one.
And when they call for the vote, understand that that all day event, we talked about needs assessment, we talked about academics, we talked about strategic planning, we talked all about all of that. That ties into the new law for the revenue neutral hearing. So you covered all of the bases through that conversation, through that day-long meeting to meet the needs of the new law regarding revenue neutral.
Okay, thank you. I do have one called in advance, so Mr. Darling, you're first.
Thank you. I am Douglas Darling, members of the board of the USD 453 Board of Education. You collectively are not a board of tax relief. The current property assessment process results from Kansas 1990 era lawsuits over the fact that not all Kansas taxpayers were treated equally when it came to property taxes. Kansas legislature recently chose to do a Texas sidestep to deflect taxpayer anger towards local taxing agencies instead of owning and fixing the assessment problem at the state level through this revenue neutral requirement. Proposed budget is penny wise and pound foolish. This budget eats your capital outlay seed corn in an environment where the district's purchasing power has dropped by a third in the last 2 years and will continue to drop significantly in future years. There is no guarantee that money allocated to the state legislature next year will increase to avoid future budget cuts in capital outlay and other funds in forthcoming years to remain revenue neutral. Capital outlay is more than just school facilities. It now includes such things as buying uniforms and computer refresh cycles. Routine repairs and IT repair and life cycle expenses can easily exceed currently forecast amounts in this inflationary environment. The district also uses capital outlay funds to self-insure the millions of dollars of its deductible insurance coverage in case of a disaster. The district's capital outlay fund allowed the board to pay for new parking areas at Henry Leavenworth instead of requiring a school bond election. This proposed budget precludes the capability of taking advantage of opportunities as they arise, such as additional parking near Lawson. I got involved in Leavenworth schools 35 years ago, largely because Leavenworth at that time did not put its money behind its mouth when it came to valuing our students and staff. Salary, staff morale, and pride in the district were all low. Our facilities were outdated. Those sad days will return unless changes are made. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board or ask questions of our Chief Financial Officer? Okay. Mr. Powell?
Madam President, I move the adoption of the following resolution. Resolution 22/23-016, revenue neutral tax rate. Whereas 2022 HB 2239, amending KSA 79-2988 provides that a levy of property taxes to finance the 2022-2023 budget of the USD 453 exceeds the revenue neutral tax rate to finance the 2022-2023 budget of USD 453 be authorized by a resolution. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the USD 453 that the 2022-2023 budget with a levy of property taxes exceeding the revenue neutral rates calculated for 2022 and 2023 as adjusted pursuant to 2022 HB 2239, amending KSA 79-2988 is hereby adopted. Adopted this 12th day of September 2022 by the Board of Education of the Unified School District number 453, Leavenworth County, Kansas. And attested by the Board of Education Unified School District 453, Leavenworth, Kansas, State of Kansas.
And just to inform board members, this is a roll call vote. So when I call your name, please say yes or no. I'm sorry.
I
sorry.
second.
Sorry. Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Motion by Mr. Powell, second by Ms. Murphy. Sorry. Just trying to get that done. All right, all of those in favor? Well, no, it's roll call vote. Sorry. Yes. So once again, when I call your name, please say yes or no. Mr. Carney,
No.
Mr. Goodman,
Yes.
Ms. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Ms. Reed.
I apologize. Traffic made me late.
That's fine.
What am I voting on?
Your vote is yes or no. It's the revenue neutral hearing.
Just to have the hearing
No.
This is for the publication and adoption of the next.
of what we
phase.
did at the last meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Ms. Wells?
No.
I'm Judy Price and vote yes. Okay, this time is 6:08. That is the adjournment of the revenue neutral tax hearing. So at this time, we'll call the 2022-2023 budget hearing to order. It is 6:08. Mr. Carney,
I'm still here.
Mr. Goodman,
Here.
Ms. Murphy,
Here.
Mr. Powell,
Here.
Ms. Reed,
Here.
Ms. Wells,
Here.
and I'm Judy Price. Okay, at this time, the board appreciates patrons taking time to express their opinions on the budget hearing. You will have 3 minutes with a 15-second notice, and anyone wishing to make comment or ask questions may come forward at this time. If you have any comments or questions for the board or the CFO, please come forward. You'll have 3 minutes with a 15-second
Mentioned to the
notice.
county the other day, your PA system is sort of like TWAs, and I flew for them for 26 years. It was, not you personally, it's your PA system, but that's all right. You know what initiated this discussion, especially at the county level and the city level? 6 months ago, 7 months ago, out came a statement that the appraisals have averaged 15%. Now, the average person is going up 10%, but the appraisals had gone up 15%. That's a lot of money. It needed to be studied a little more, in a little more detail. What do the people that we always tell who we serve, we're looking out for you. We have some of the greatest schools. I'll let somebody else judge the teachers. Minnie Mae Mayer isn't here anymore. Bertha Roberts isn't here. These were all old maid school teachers. God bless their hearts. They couldn't be married. It was a wonderful system, though. As I said, 15% went up. I talked to a gentleman the other day, and he was complaining about the county appraiser. And I said, and I bet you all of you don't know this, county appraiser has no relationship with the Board of County Commissioners other than he's in the same building. The state runs the county appraiser. County doesn't run him. If you got a complaint, you got to go to Proctor or your senator or somebody else. That's who runs the county appraiser. If the county wants to fire the county appraiser, they have to go to the Board of Tax. And if they agree, fine, it can be fired. But if they're going to hire somebody, then they have to get a person who's gone to school for the tax people. So don't blame the county, blame the entities that regulate it, and that's the county itself, how it spends, the cities, how they spend, the library, how it spends, the school district, how they spend, and the state, how it spends. The state gets 1.5 mils automatically. They started out with, I think, 1 mil many years ago, and now they get 1.5 mils. They never adjust that. You know why? That's a lot of millions, because it's 1.5 mils from every county. So I wanted to have that information, but the clerk didn't get back to me. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it. And at the end, I'll talk about kids.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, Mr. Powell?
Madam President, I move the adoption of the following resolution. Resolution 22/23-017. Building needs assessment, local option budget percentage, and adoption of the budget. Be it resolved by the Board of Education, Unified School District Number 453, Leavenworth County, Kansas, that on July the 25th, 2022, a buildings needs assessment was provided and evaluated by the Board of Education. The Board of Education shall be authorized to make a local option percentage in an amount of 31% for the 2022-2023 school year, and hereby adopts the 2022-2023 budget as published in the Leavenworth Times.
I have a motion by Mr. Powell. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. All right, this is not a roll call vote, so this is just a show of hands. All of those in favor? 7. Mr. Garner, you yes or no? Okay, so 7-0. Thank you. All right. It's adjournment of the budget hearing at 6:13. And now, call to order for our regular board meeting. Mr. Carney. Yes, you have to do it again.
I'm here.
Mr. Goodman.
Here.
Ms. Murphy.
Here.
Mr. Powell.
Here.
Ms. Reed.
Here.
Ms. Wells.
Here.
And I'm Judy Price. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please stay seated. All right, Dr. Oath, the district mission statement.
Yes, it's to prepare every student for success in every classroom every day.
All right, the next item is scheduled patron input. So the board appreciates patrons taking time to talk to us about policies and procedures. We set aside this time every meeting to hear from the public. Your comments should be directed toward board policies or the procedures our administrators established to carry out those policies. This is not an appropriate time or place for patrons to make comments of a personal nature about any district employee or student. Persons making comments which violate the privacy rights of district employees will be asked to terminate their remarks. If a patron or parent has a concern with one or more employees, the board will refer that person to the appropriate employee or the superintendent. If the board refers your concern to an administrator for investigation, the board will hear about it in a future meeting, and you can expect the superintendent or another district employee to make arrangements to meet with you at an appropriate time. You have 3 minutes to make your comments. Thanks again for taking time to discuss district business with the board. And Mr. Clem?
You dropped something.
That was a lot of help. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate that. As you get more mature, you like help. I gave handouts to Brenda, and if you want one, she said she'll make sure you get them. Number one topic, the lost generation impact of COVID-19. I don't like the word COVID-19, but I'll use it. Buckets of risk. The kids of the COVID will not have the earning power of kids that were not disadvantaged, estimated these kids in a lifetime will make between 49 and 60,000 less than their peers. Emotional development is missed, being able to interact with social and other events in their life. Older children may not come back to the learning environment. Many children, depending on the school, for food, clean water, cleanliness, learning, and even safety. How can we help these kids? Does Leavenworth need to develop a plan to help all levels of children back to the appropriate learning level? Suggestions: longer school year, additional 1 hour to the school day, additional month of school to help make up for the time missed. Schools all year long, open up for more teachers in more avenues, additional before or after school programs. Summary: I don't know what the right solution is, but I'll guarantee you there's a lot of ideas in here. But anything we do can, as a community, will help against the generations and future generations. The main point here is we have a great school system in Leavenworth. The schools are great. Simply stated, there is more we can do to help these kids. The future generation to get the additional support. The door of the classroom has to be wide as possible to get these kids back up to their levels that they should be at. We need to be creative in thinking outside the box to support these kids. Is there any more we can do with how we look at the school today to think outside the box and support our kids' vital assets? And a great friend of mine, he ended up a great citizen in Leavenworth. He was held back 2 or 3 years. I don't remember what it was. And I was on a fishing trip with him, and he said, told me that story. And he said, that was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. If I hadn't been held back, I'd be nobody today. And so I said, yeah, but when you were a freshman in high school, you were 3 years older than
15
me.
seconds remaining.
And I was playing you in basketball. So, it all adds up. So thank you for your time. Hopefully we do something, because the kids are more important than streets, houses, anything else. The kids are way more important. Thank you.
Right, at this time, we have the motion to adopt the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as it appears.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Murphy, a second by Mr. Goodman to adopt the agenda as presented. All those in favor? 7-0, thank you.
As I shared with the board before, Amy and I have visited with different food service vendors and invited OPA to come and give kind of an overview to the board about what contracted food service would actually look like. It's strictly information tonight. We'll take this information back to you probably in October to see if this is something you want to go out to an RFP with. And then we would do the RFP process through committee along those lines. And so with that, I'd like to introduce to you Mr. David Howard.
I'm going to introduce Kay titled this. Kay also works with OPA. So we put together a little slideshow for you just to talk a little bit about what contracted food service management looks like. And so I'm just going to kind of fly through these and leave time for questions if you have some. So this is a little bit about OPA itself. We do have a home office in Chesterfield, Missouri. We do specialize in home style cooking and some baking. And we're one of the premier food service companies here in the Midwest. So we have districts. This slide is not updated. We actually have, this slide shows 7 districts. Oh no, it has Illinois on there as well. So these are the districts throughout the Midwest that we have. And I don't believe it, it is showing Illinois. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. Indiana. Indiana is our other district that we just added. So we are in 8 different states throughout the United States. And you can see where they started in Missouri and how it's expanded from there. As I talk about school districts in Kansas, we have approximately 68 districts in Kansas that we currently contract food service with. There are a couple other companies that contract in Kansas too. Taher is one, Chartwells is another. There's about 73 total districts that contract, but OPA has 68 of them. So it all has to go through a bid process, which I'll get to here in a moment. But as far as local districts, currently OPA services Bonner Springs, Basehor Linwood, Piper, and the Turner district here in this area. We also have some just across the border as well. So you kind of wonder, the question is, how does contract food service help a district? How does it help them save money? The main thing is purchasing power. So we actually contract directly with Tyson, Kellogg's, some of those companies for pricing for food. So chicken patties, hamburger, et cetera, all that stuff goes directly through them. We have a purchasing agent. And so we're going to purchase 5 million chicken patties a year. A district's going to purchase much less than that. So our pricing is much better. We do increase participation and choice. So part of our goal is to make sure that we have more students eating. So in middle school, high school, for instance, we may have 5 or 6 reimbursable choices a day. So it could be a hamburger, could be chicken patty, could be salad, pre-made salad, et cetera. We are fully compliant with with all federal and state regulations. We help with menus. We have inventory control. We assist the state agency with the USDA audits that I'm sure Leavenworth has been through, which are fun. We do provide staff training. Sorry, Beth. We do provide staff training for all the staff, and there's program employee management on our side. So I'm going to let Kay talk a little bit about the menu highlights. And I know some of you may have questions right now, but we'll talk about what that transition looks like when you go to contracted food service after she's done talking about menu highlights.
First of all, thanks for letting us come and talk to you about our company. But I brought some samples in the back. We make our muffins at breakfast and that go with our salads from scratch. We also make the cinnamon rolls that go with breakfast from scratch. So I brought some samples from one of our schools.
Great. Now they're not going to concentrate on your presentation. They're going to be like, can we get to the cinnamon rolls?
Front row right here.
I didn't,
Don't let the Raiders get to it.
I didn't open the box, though, so you can't smell it yet. These are just, and I'll go through this quickly too, because we want you to have time at the end for questions. These are just some of the things that we do offer. And like David said, we do like to do, we do like to do scratch cooking, and we try to do at least 60 to 65% of our menu to be scratch. We can't get by without having the hamburgers and the hot dogs and the corn dogs that the kids like. But we try to have at least 1 or 2 homemade items on the menu every day. And these are just some of the things that we offer. I like to brag and say that our company makes one of the best meatloafs I've ever tasted. So, and we've actually got kids that love the meatloaf. So these are also breakfast choices. We offer 3 to 4 choices of breakfast every day. One of the favorites being biscuits and gravy and sausage on Fridays. That's a staple. Kids look forward to it. But we try to give them a wide variety of lunch and breakfast items so that they will have something that they like on the menu. We found out in a lot of surveys that if they get to choose what they eat, then they're basically going to eat it because you didn't just put it on a plate or tray and hand it to them. Okay, we have a chef that works with our company. At least once a month, he comes up with new recipes, new ideas, so we can keep things new and fresh for the kids. He also comes out to the schools, works with the staff, helps train them. He'll put on demonstrations for the kids. If you have culinary classes, he'll come and work with them. But he's pretty invaluable when it comes to being a good resource for us. We also do what we call a second chance breakfast. We found out that the high school students and a lot of middle school students slide in there at the last minute. They want to visit with their friends. They don't go down to the cafeteria and eat breakfast. So between first and second hour, we put grab and go breakfast together like you see on this cart, and we will take it to different points in the school building, and kids can grab one as they go to class. And it's all in disposable containers. They can have it ate and put back in their sack and wad it up and throw it in the trash before they even get to the classroom. So, and we've had Bonner Springs, for instance, we were feeding at their high school, probably 180 kids. We started this second chance breakfast. We went up to 500 and 600 kids eating breakfast. So it makes quite a difference. Our NutriSlice is our menu, which is a web-based menu. You can get it on your phone. You can get it on your computer. You can get it on a tablet. You can get it on your smartwatches. Kids like it because anytime during the day, they can look and see what's for lunch. If there's a change, that can be made right away, so it's always updated. The nurses love it because it can be run through a filter for all your allergies. It does carb counts for diabetics, and you can have it done in about 20 different languages. One thing I forgot is you can put your cursor over whatever item is on that menu. It'll show you a picture of it, and it will also give you all the nutritional analysis on it. I must not be hitting the right spot. There we go. That's just a quick overview of some of the vendors that we deal with, and you can see several on there are quite well known. So we try to use the best brand, best grade food that we can get, which we get first choice at a lot of times. We have a program where we like to work with the kids and the students on farm to school. We'd like to teach them where their food comes from. A lot of them think it comes from the grocery store. We want to teach them where it comes from, how it's grown, and how it gets to where they eat it. We also, if there's anybody in the district that knows of a fruit and vegetable farmer, a beef farmer in the area that wants to work with us and do farm to school, we love to work with them to get fresh products right to the school from the farm and not go through a vendor. The fresh fruit and vegetable program has been a really big program with our company. So, and you'll see why. We've got a fruit and vegetable bar that we keep filled every day. This is also some things that we like to work with the kids on. Gardens, learning gardens, community gardens, farmers markets day, beef industry council. We work with them on getting fresh ground beef and roasts to the schools. And we like to include those FFA students because the little ones like to be involved with the older kids, and it's a good program for the FFA students to be involved in. These are extra things that we can do with the school. We can do breakfast in the classroom. We found out during COVID we could do breakfast and lunch just about anywhere you needed it. We were handing lunches out on the corners of the street. We were handing them out in the driveways of the school. We were carrying them to people's houses. We were taking them to daycare. Anywhere you needed a child fed, we tried to get there to them. We do box lunches for field trips. Anything after school. This picture here that you see is a health and wellness fair at Turner School District, where we taught the parents how to cheaply, economically, and healthy feed snacks to their kids after school. We showed them how it was done. We gave them the recipes to do it, to try to teach them that it could be done. It didn't have to be a bag of chips after school. We'll do a supper program. As I said, our fresh fruit and vegetable program, our child and adult care program. We can do full suppers. We can do snacks of the afternoon, and we can help your district put on a health and wellness fair. This is just some of the things that we did during COVID, which I've already mentioned. We partnered with the district. We made safety videos for people to learn how to prepare food in the time of the pandemic. Like we said, door-to-door feeding, bus stop, bus drop-off, curbside, the whole bit. We tried to feed kids everywhere we could find them. Catering, we love to catering. That's somewhere somehow that we can show off and not have to go by the guidelines. We can cater any banquet, any meeting, any luncheon, any community event that your school district would need. That's a Christmas dinner we did at one school district. I must not be strong enough to push the button. Okay, now I'll turn it back over.
Thank you, Kay. So the bid process, you do have to go through some of these things. We actually did a feasibility study for Dr. Roth about a year ago. We believe we can save the district money in the long run, but as we do that, you do have to go through an RFP process. So the RFP goes out. You will have other companies bid on the district, especially this size. One of the things that I will say would be advantageous to OPA is that we do have other districts within your area where we can pull staffing from if need be, and then we would do that for training. So there's a whole process that goes through. It's strictly monitored by the state of Kansas, by KSDE, and so that is a process that's already in place. We do have five-year fixed pricing. So the contract's actually a 5-year contract. We give you a per meal tray price. That price cannot increase by more than the CPI the following year. So for up to 5 years. The contract itself is voted on every single year. So if you were year 3 with OPA and said, hey, we want to do something different the following year, we want to go back to self-operation, you could do so. You're not breaking a contract. A 5-year contract actually protects the pricing for districts. Board of Education absolutely has to renew it annually. So it's usually April. The district, so as far as what the district still retains control of, pricing, student meal prices, that's completely up to the district. All the revenue streams, the equipment, facilities, district would approve new hires. And so I'll talk a little bit about that. The director would actually have to go to work for OPA. So part of our model is the director works for us. The employees can stay with the district. They can move all over to the OPA side, or we can do a transition. And the transition would be the director comes to work for OPA. The employees stay with Leavenworth, but as they retire or resign, then we would hire them back on our side. Or you could keep them, you could maintain control of that and continue to hire those people on your side as well. So districts, it varies how districts do that. Some districts want to maintain control of their own employees. They may have several employees that are getting close to retirement, so they want to make sure that they are still allowed to retire with capers, et cetera. We're absolutely okay with that. So again, it's really a decision for the board and admin to decide how you want to do that. You guys still set policies, procedures as far as how lunch is ran. And then the district operates the point of sale. So we charge you per meal tray, but someone else from the district then operates that point of sale because you have those two things separated. So again, if Leavenworth decided at some point they wanted to look at contracted food service, this is kind of the transition that we would go through. So we would hire a director of nutrition services. Again, we would get input from the district on that person. And then all the orientation, meetings, et cetera, all of that would be ran with OPA. So we would come in and help support all of those things. So how'd I do? All right. I left time for some questions if anybody had questions. So usually the biggest questions I get are employees and how that is, because a lot of your cooks are local people. And so there is a little concern there when you start talking about contracted food service because it's different. And I want to give an example. We just brought in a new district just south of here this year. I was there the first 2 days. The head cook, who'd been there for 5 years, said we're getting ready to batch fries. So we're cooking French fries on that first day. We have 3 sections coming through. It's a middle school. And our regional director said, we'll cook, they take 20 minutes. We take them out of the freezer, they take 20 minutes to stick in the oven and cook. They look like Arby's fries. Kids were super excited. The head cook wants to cook them all at once and then keep them in the warmer. Our RDO says that's absolutely not how we do it. We have 20 minutes, we have several minutes in between each lunch section. And so 20 minutes prior before that second lunch comes in, we stick the fries in the oven, we bring them out so they're fresh. So again, just some different things that occur. We have a baked bean recipe that either is cooked in the oven or on the stove. That district wants to microwave. And so again, we talk about the OPA way and how we prepare food because the better the quality is, the more kids eat. And I would tell you this, this is my second year at the company. I do have some experience though, but every district that OPA has came into has increased participation because there are more options. There's always a fresh fruit and salad bar available. And so we've always seen it increase participation. So again, sorry, I kept talking.
What about the pricing?
So the pricing part of that will depend on employees and how we do the transition. So if the employees stay on your side, pricing is going to be much less. If they come to our side, we would actually increase because we're going to cover that cost. But all you pay is the per meal tray price. So the number of kids eat times the $2 a tray, and then you get one bill a month. So currently, I assume if Beth's doing that, she gets bills a month for food service. You would get one bill from us. So all the waste, all those, any of those things that go in the trash are actually on us. The only thing you pay for is a per
What
tray.
about the free reduced program?
That still applies. Still applies. It's exactly the same. You still, so every tray that we sell to the district or every lunch that a student takes, you still get the federal and state reimbursement. So, and again, when you see the pricing, you'll be surprised that, because again, I've seen some of the pricing last year and a half where I think it's less, but that price that you're getting from the feds and the state right now is extremely high. It's actually less this year than it was last
I
year.
got one last question when
Yeah.
I showed up. I think I talked to you at the last recreation school board convention about educating the community. Do you have any kind of program like that? What-
Say that again?
Well, I think we had an education program for the community, for families. Because I got a family of my own that one kid likes to eat macaroni and cheese for every meal. And I think parents could be educated about things like that. That's probably not good for you. And
Yeah.
get some kind of variety. I don't know if you have a brochure or a program or.
Yes, and that's like what I was saying, what we did with Turner. We helped the whole district put on a health and wellness fair, and the district pulled in dentists to check the kids' teeth, a barber to cut their hair, and we did the food section of it. And we had that whole long table just filled with all kinds of economical after-school snacks that the parents could feed. And we have 2 registered dietitians on staff. They were there. The chef was there. So we were visiting with families in groups as they moved down that line, teaching them how to feed their kids healthy, how to do it on a budget, and giving them the recipes and the ingredients and everything to do it. So we love to do things like that.
The other thing that also says we will show up to site council meetings, PTA, to talk to parents, talk to students about lunch choices and those things. So again, some education could be done during those times as well.
I have a few questions, if I may, please, and I appreciate you. Speaking of waste, I know like the fresh apples and oranges and things like that, they of course don't last forever. And I know you said the waste is on you. Is there a way to utilize that to where maybe you're using a freeze dryer or a dehydrator and you could actually turn those into snacks so that they could be eaten at a later date because then they are preserved more long term?
That all depends on what KSD will let us.
Let's do, okay.
We follow
Just planting
all
the
of their
seed.
Rules and regulations as far
Right.
as share tables, milk that's not open, all of that. kind of
Right.
stuff. We follow their
Yeah,
rules.
just kind of planting the seed. When you say you use disposable containers, are those recyclable or are they biodegradable?
We use those just for the grab and go.
Just for the
We
grab,
like
but,
to use real trays, real silverware.
okay, very good. And next, would our kitchens have to be modified to adapt to your service? Or are you all encompassing with that?
We're pretty encompassing. So during that RFP process, there would be a walkthrough of all of your kitchens. And so we would bring people in, our operations would come in and look at all of your kitchens and decide how we would do that. You know, we have some small districts that don't have a full kitchen in their elementary. So we potentially prepare at a high school and then have to move it over.
So we wouldn't have to buy additional equipment or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
Now, with that being said, if you
Okay.
didn't have a stove
Mm.
or a warmer or something, we may ask for you to purchase something like that. But again, a lot of times we also have grant writers that will help write grants. She's one of them.
Very good.
To get additional dollars for the district to replace some of those things, especially older, outdated equipment.
So going on to the education with maybe students and families on healthy eating options, growing food and learning farm to table, could that grant writing help get some of those tower gardens put into the schools? So maybe they were growing all the herbs that you needed to cook with.
Yeah.
Okay, very, very good.
And also a lot of times, if you get the equipment to do it, we'll provide all the seed to plant. That's how.
Well, if we get the grant to get the equipment, then
But it
that's,
depends on how elaborate you want to get.
right. Kind of like
If you want to
green.
build a greenhouse, you might have.
Right, and I think we have one in one area, and we're gonna have some little outdoor gardens at some of the schools that they're working on, but I wanted to see how that was gonna work on that. I have to say, I was really excited about seeing yours in the other booths when I went to my first national to Philly pre-C19, and I was re-energized again post-C19 when we went to San Diego this past April, so I'm really excited to get to hear you all and these possibilities here. So here's my next question, and it may be directed with you as well, Dr. Roth. When you talk about its per tray cost, let's say the trays are $2 a tray, basically $2 a meal per person, and we're charging $4 now. Just I don't know what we are charging, but let's say that's what we're charging, excluding free or reduced. Would that mean we could lower the cost of the meals for the students then too?
Yes and no. So we have to follow the federal guidelines on that.
Mhm.
So when you have the food, that piece tied, they set the floor of what you can charge for
Okay.
your meal. So you could possibly come down to whatever that floor is,
Come
which I
down a
think
little bit.
I think
but-
we're pretty close to that floor, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. All right. Because this is kind of new.
And it's
I
regulated.
just,
Yeah, it's regulated by the federal government
okay.
because of
okay.
other reimbursables.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. You don't know how excited I am.
Okay.
And I know Mr. Carney's excited. I know Mr. Carney and I've talked about this on and off over the years when we've gone to convention. And I want to say right now, before we even go any further, I know our staff does tremendous things with our food, but I also know since C19, there have been tremendous struggles in getting supplies,
Right.
in getting freshness, in being able to get, a variety of things rather than the same thing over and over again. And I just think this is just going to re-energize the staff on top of re-energizing the students to have it more appealing to them. Because if we do have well-fed bellies, we are going to have very active brains and very active bodies. And that in itself may actually help. It won't take care of it all, but it may help with some of that lost learning too, because they're well-fed and energized. Thank you.
Can you talk to me about your Google reviews? as a
Or
company?
what?
Your reviews on Google.
I haven't seen any reviews on Google.
Okay.
Excuse me, go ahead.
So kind of going on what Alyssa was saying, and waste.
Uh-huh.
do you guys do anything with waste management? I don't know if there's any, in other words, ways to kind of capture the food that doesn't
Waste.
get eaten and maybe put into a composting program that would go along with
Right.
the other
And a
educational
lot of that,
opportunities.
Goes along with your state government, but it also goes along with your county health department, what they'll let us do. Some of the schools that we've got further down south, there's a lot of farms around, there's a hog farm, and they can do in sealed buckets anything that go and take out from the hogs and feed to them. It just depends on where you're located and what your local people will let us do.
So untouched food, you have a line, this food's never been touched, the salad's not been touched, the meatloaf and the mashed potatoes and the green beans have not been touched. This is what's been left over from every tray. What do you do with that food?
Some of it, if it is still in good shape, because we're not gonna feed it to anybody if it's been held on a steam table and it doesn't,
If those beans look like-
feed it to the kids.
Right.
But if it is still salvageable, we will sell it as extra second lunches the next day.
Second lunch is the next day. I didn't know if maybe there was a program where you could pack up leftovers and they go home with the at-risk students
Yeah.
type thing, more
That's when we
seeds.
come in and try to do the CACFP supper meals and the extra snack for kids in the afternoon.
Okay.
A lot of the younger ones get a morning snack, but they don't get that afternoon
Okay.
snack. So if you're a high grade in your school, we can come in and help you get that program where you could feed them. You can feed them a snack and turn around and feed them a supper.
Okay. Very good.
So you know they're gonna have a breakfast, a morning snack, they're gonna eat lunch, they're gonna have an afternoon snack, and they're gonna have supper before they go home.
Very good. Thank you so very much. I appreciate you both.
Goal is to keep those tummies full.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And I was gonna tell you real quick, I've seen both sides of it. I worked for a self-op school, and was a director for 20 years there. And I had a wonderful superintendent, and we did everything we could to keep kids. But he had no food service background. I had to find my own training and things to learn the new upcoming. But when Oprah came in, and I was a big doubter, because I wanted my kids fed a certain way, and, you know. But when they came in, it was such a good sense of support. They brought things to the program that we couldn't do by ourselves. Everybody got training. I got training. We saved enough money, we could buy a big brand new salad bar. It just took our program to the next level. And they are with a registered dietitian and chef and all the people we have in our company that work for the same goal. It's a great support system to take your food service to the next level.
Thank you.
I got one last question, and I'll shut up. I may have missed it in your presentation, but did you say let's say you get the contract, do you do like a welcome families and taste our product kind of a deal at some point in time, or would we have to fund that, or?
We haven't done that in the past that I'm aware of. Okay.
We have done teachers and administrators, but now we do right off the bat in the fall, every fall, we do Grandparents' Day. The
Oh, goody.
grandparents come in and eat with their elementary students. So that gives them a sense of.
Well, I mean, I just thought it was a community thing where you could just, something simple, or just to show you're here doing it, and this is part of what we do. And
I guarantee you, if you want to work with Oprah to come up with the concept, we can make it.
Kind of like what you would do at convention and just have
Right.
parents and grandparents
Right.
coming in with
Now,
little sample cups.
We do
Right.
samples of things and do cookies at open house. When the kids come in to register, a lot of times we have a table that it's got the first month's menus out there. It's got a whole bunch of information that families would want to know about, knowing that they're going to a food service company.
Thank you so very much.
Appreciate your briefing. And also appreciate that in your briefing that you will work with us to make sure that our employees are taken care of.
Yes.
I mean,
It's
that's
extremely
a
important.
major concern in any transition in this district, so I appreciate that. Switch gears a little bit. If I could pick your brain a little bit on what you see, because you're all over the United States, or at least in the Midwest. What are you seeing as far as supply chain? Because it doesn't matter what choices we have if we can't get the stuff. So what, in your view, and again, this is just, your assessment, are we going to see supply chain problems regardless of what we do?
I'm hearing little rumblings right now about that, but I just want to, again, I've been with OPA 13 months now. Last year, we did have some supply chain issues, just along with everybody else. OPA actually really got out in front of this. They actually leased warehouse space in North KC and down in Springfield. So they leased 2 big warehouses, and they probably contributed to supply chain issues because they were ordering all the dry storage things that they could. And then we also used the underground tunnels in Kansas City to store additional frozen foods. So our purchasing agent saw this coming. And so they really got out in front of it. They actually leased trucks, refrigerated trucks. I drove one of them last year to make sure that we were able to feed kids. So we did experience some of that last year. Again, we tried to get out in front of it. He's saying that there may be a little bit of an issue this year. But honestly, we were able to make sure that all of our kids district-wide, all through the Midwest were able to eat last year. So knock on wood, it doesn't happen again. But again, OPA still has those warehouse spaces just in case.
Well, and you're reaching out to local vendors.
Yes.
Sometimes it's better local than it is national because of supply chain issues. So I would hope that would be something we could work with because there's a number of
If you get me
Hoop
your card, I
houses here.
got three.
Right.
Three that
Okay.
used to work
So-
with a restaurant I
Oh, good.
managed.
Right.
Okay, great.
So thank you for your answer.
Absolutely.
Dr.
Anything else?
Have you been in communication already with our child nutrition director?
So Cynthia has met with Amy and Beth. And so she helped fill out a lot of the paperwork
Okay.
on that original assessment.
And so what was the need within the district that we were looking for this?
A lot of it came down to the openings that we have within the district. Like we were operating 15 people under. So I honestly, there was fellow board members that contacted about the delay and the length of time it took for students to get through. That's a lot of that was due to not their work, but the amount of individuals that were doing the work.
Okay.
And so then Cynthia is considering retirement and getting all of the things in place from a nutritional value and having a nutritionalist and making sure we're meeting that mandate was another area that we looked at to make sure that we have it. So Mr. Carney, for the last umpteen years, has been talking about food.
Yes.
You heard Miss Murphy talk after the conventions and seeing what's out there. There's been conversation about it. And transition wise with everything that's kind of happening, it felt like this would be the right opportunity to bring it to the board to decide whether or not that would be something you would be interested in as a board.
So along the employee line, do you do background checks on all of your
Yes.
people like we would have because they're going to be in our schools?
Yeah, so if we hire them, yes, there's a complete background check that we would share with the district, just like any contracted service that you probably do.
And then would you be able to pay your employees better than we can pay?
Possibly. So that would be probably, as we go through the walkthrough, that might be something that we would talk to Dr. Roth about, just to see, is it easy? Has it been really tough to fill those positions?
Yes.
We just rebid Basers this last April. They set a floor of $15 an hour for line cooks and $18 for head cooks.
You didn't
So-
say that out loud. Take that back.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But they actually asked us to raise that floor for them, so that went into the bid.
Okay.
So to say that we're not paying, I mean, the district is paying for it
Right.
in the long run. But again, we set and they are fully staffed right now. So I talked to Della, the director down there the other day, and they are fully staffed. And the first time in the last 2 years.
Question for you on just if we elect to go with OPA or whatever, what's the transition timeline moving from our operations to your operations outright?
So the RFP doesn't, so again, it's highly regulated. It comes out from KSD sometime late January. This would be something on the district. They have to go through the RFP process. The KSD then has a list of all the vendors that it gets sent to. We won't be the only one that bids on it. So usually at that walkthrough, if you start it right away, would be late February, early March. Us and Chartwells or Taher, whoever would show up, we'd walk through all the kitchens, talk about what the district foresees as what they'd like to see in the future. And so the transition then would be the following August. So we would use that summertime then for training, inventory. We will purchase your current inventory as long as it's food that we can use. So we will come in with your current director and do a inventory, purchase that from you, and pay you a check for it. As long as it's food that we use.
Great, thank you.
And then
Okay.
one last question. How does the second chance breakfast work? Like, do they still pay for it? Are they scanning whatever ID they scan to get their lunches and
Yeah.
their breakfast now?
So depending where they do it at, so in Baser, for example, they put a couple of stations out there. There was employees there writing down names of who took lunch. Then they went back in and put it in the computer. So it really does increase students because, you know, as if you've ever been to a high school, the bell's ringing, you have kids still walking down the hallway. So there's a high school principal in here that would agree with me. So basically where we put those carts, or if you wanted to keep it in the lunchroom, you could do that as well. And then they just go through that point of sale.
And then Matt, along those lines, do you see problems with custodial work with that? Mm-hmm. To support just specifically the second breakfast.
We do it now.
Okay.
Yeah, we got the little cart.
And they're able to just eat it and walk around and dispose of it where they can dispose of it? Okay.
You know a lot about Baser, don't you?
I didn't mention that piece, but I am a retired superintendent from Baser Leavenworth. So retired a year and 15 months, 13 months ago. And so, yes, I'm very familiar with Baser. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are any follow-up questions, please let Dr. Rowe know and he can send them and then he can share them with you.
Great, thank you. All right, the next item is 11, consent agenda.
Anything need to be taken off?
I'd like to talk about the number 1107, Reading and Math Academy.
I'd like to talk about 1106. Please.
Is that the graphing calculators?
Hmm.
Okay. Anything else to be removed from the consent agenda?
Just a couple of things, just for notes for the board. After the meeting with Ms. Price and Mr. Powell to set the agenda, we pulled policy IF, which relates to the books. So you do not see that on there, which you would have seen that on the possible first read. And that's due to wanting to rewrite that policy to meet the needs of our board, our community, and our school. So that will be presented at a later date, but just cross-reference that you would have seen it on a previous one that you currently don't see. And then you also have the Raiders in front of you, and you also have DECA as part of that. Last year, the board gave approval for trips like what they're presenting. If they're annual trips, that we present that to you in like a consent and then a Friday review for approval based on administration approval on that. And so those are a couple of things that you will see on the consent agenda that's new, but based on previous board action.
Okay. And I hate to lengthen the board meeting, but I would like to talk with the DECA and just quick question.
DECA is not here.
Oh, they're not here? Okay.
No.
Okay.
And they were told that they didn't have to be.
That's fine.
Well, to shorten this a little bit, you can go ahead and put 1106 back on there and not worry about it.
So you'd want to disremove it?
Just remove it, yeah.
Okay.
And there was questions on that. If you see on that graphing calculator, we talked with Brian. There are some extensions for Chromebooks, but
Okay.
you can't use those in testing.
Right.
They're regulated. And so the graphing calculators are for testing purposes
Right.
as well as classroom. And then there was a question on battery life. These are rechargeable systems.
Did we have any at all currently?
Yes.
Or is this just
I
a
don't know
new
how many,
upgraded?
but
Okay,
yes.
all right. Thank
It's a
you.
refresh, basically.
Okay, then I don't have any other questions, so I can stay.
Okay, so we retain 1106. So the only item to be removed at this time from the consent agenda is 1107.
Unless you wanted to say something about your little request.
I was gonna say, I can never get enough of,
I mean,
First Sergeant.
we
No,
can.
no, we don't want to hear
Okay.
Stop practice to get here.
Okay.
Something.
Okay,
But if it's already been approved, thank you very much if you approved it. It's
Hasn't
hard-
been approved yet, sir.
That's
Okay,
right.
when we do the vote on the consent
It's hard
agenda.
enough to win one exercise, let alone two exercises.
So we can get the first
We're
sergeant out of
going
here.
after 3 exercises.
Vote quick.
Madam President,
Look,
I move that we approve the consent agenda with the one modification of 1107 being moved for further discussion.
second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Powell, second by Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murphy, to accept the consent agenda except for item 1107, which becomes item 12.1. All of those in favor? 7-0, thank you.
Does Mike's left hand count?
are we good?
You're good. You got
Good.
approved.
A great presentation, sir.
Yeah, that was,
There's no arc up there. I'm bringing an arc.
yes,
All right.
deal, done, put it up there.
Stay fired up.
Stay fired up, First Sergeant.
Don't put in a request for any bullhorns.
All right, so, item 12.1, consideration of my reading, my math academy. Ms. Batson.
Okay, so this is $125,000 for 5 years. Understanding that it's coming out of the Title I money, so it's already paid for. What are we going to be using this for?
It's a supplemental resource that'll be used in our K-2 classrooms during their center rotations. It's very much a gamification for reading and math skills that then it alters the programming in the games based on students' individuals. So we're not holding back any students who are ready to move forward, but we're also providing extra opportunities that look just like regular games that they're used to playing on their phones or on their tablets at home.
So this is the kindergarten, first and second graders.
Yes, sir.
All right, okay. What are we doing currently for those?
So
those
that's
skills?
a hodgepodge, if you want to know the truth. In centers, a lot of times teachers they'll get a free classroom subscription for about 90 days to a different resource that allows. There's also some that are open, but it's a lot lower rigor and not as high quality of product on it. So there's kind of catch-22.
So this will allow us to focus professional development, consistency, and standardization instead of each teacher trying to figure out their own program. Is that what we're going to get from this?
Yes, and also too, I wanted something that was very kid-centered and required teachers that they weren't having to do a heavy lift in the middle of the school year on trying to implement something into their classrooms. This is very much a supplemental where once it's established, and I've already been working with technology. So in our Chromebooks, we'll use Google Play to create this app based on our Chromebooks, which are touchscreen at the lower levels. So then kids can interact with it. It'll be something that they do independently during their center rotations.
Where? So it's not part of the main curriculum, it's a supplemental.
It's a supplemental. It's not one of our core resources. No.
Okay.
Now, we're trying to track child development and areas where we're improving. And supplemental, obviously, is intended to pick up some of that slack. With this program, are we going to be able to track individual students and observe any transitional changes in their learning?
Sure. I mean, it's like any other program that is at this level. You can drill down to the individual skill versus the individual student Now, as far as causation, I would, obviously be very hesitant to say because of this program, this student grew X or Y, because there's too many other indicators in there. But yes, we'll be able to see where kids started and where they ended, and then anywhere in between.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was talking about. Is a
Mhm.
spot on where the teachers, a particular student, if they come together with a team, they can look at everything.
One more data point.
As a data point, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So 5 years from now, are we still gonna have these Title I dollars, or is this going to
Unless the
end?
federal government changes the way they've operated over the last umpteen decades,
Okay.
yes. And Leavenworth will most likely always be a title school.
Okay, and is this like a $25,000 a year subscription?
Yes, approximately. One of the things that I've tried to do once Mr. Bodensteiner and I came to this department is to have some consistency that when we introduce a product, we keep it for a long time. Because in all honesty, it's going to take a couple of years. That's just the reality of change. So in that, we try to do long contracts, so we have that consistency.
I appreciate you having the demo account available for us to be able to use.
Yeah.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ms. Batson?
Yeah, how are you? So I was just wondering, I want to talk about sort of accountability and content. So when we're using sort of a digital service, if that's an appropriate term, who's monitoring what type of content the kids are reading, et cetera?
So in this, it is just like an app. Even though it's on our Chromebooks, we use Google Play to create the app, which the people much smarter than I am can explain that process. But in that is what they will be on. So from there, there's no like bookshelves or things like that. It's very phonological, phonemic awareness driven at the lower levels. And I really am focusing K2 because I know if I can get them to grade level by grade 3, we're going to soar. So from that, there's not text like that, like a book. Secondly, just like anything else in our district, we have purchased these great filters that, of course, sometimes, like anything, can sneak in. But that's where Brian and I work in tandem when a concern comes up, that we figure out how did that come in there.
Another question. So the way this will be implemented is going to be on the Chromebooks. Are there individual child logins for these, or is it just a single login that the teacher uses and that all the children use?
So we're very fortunate, and our tech department has created these wonderful little QR codes that I love watching our kindergartners and our pre-K
You do a great
students.
job.
They have these great little things. They pull it out of their pocket that's on their Chromebooks. They hold it up or their iPad, depending on the building. It goes through a program called Clever, and all this magic happens, and that kid is automatically logged into all of our district programs. So it is one of the most fascinating and amazing things, and I wish I had it when I was an elementary teacher because blood pressures have gone way down since we've installed Clever.
Well, that's good. So and this may be a Brian question, are these individual logins of the children?
Yes.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Clever is acting like a single sign-on for it.
Right.
It's out for you. So I'd say that they'll do it for something couple of other words, there's still username and password.
Okay. Is there any identifiable information on there beyond children's name connected with these single sign-on accounts? And I guess the secondary question to that would be, is this something that would carry over with them from grade to grade?
So to answer that question, why Brian's thinking about it, all of our students are offered a kid's number. So it's not identifiable by their social security, the
Okay.
date of birth or anything. So
That's
I'm
kind of
assigned a
one where
15-digit kids number,
Right.
right? And that kids number follows me from kindergarten all the way through senior. That's how if they transfer schools, they go from here to Baser, the kids number goes with them all of that is tracked through their kids number. So if you break in and get my kids number,
Mhm.
it's not going to do you any good.
That's what I'm.
Right. But it is, they do,
That's one direction.
when
I'm
they
going.
identify
Okay.
with anything, it's by a kid's number. When they do a state assessment, it's by a kid's number.
Right.
All of those types of things are with our kids number.
Okay.
This is a
Now,
managed program.
Right. And then
Under,
is this something that they would be able to do outside of school? If they had, because it's abcmouse.com.
right.
So theoretically, they
ABC is
could.
the parent company, right? So in that, yes, they could, but not with their clever
Right.
login because that's a managed. So as a parent, we can communicate with parent, here's your child's login.
Okay.
And just like your child can log into their Google classrooms, into their Google Drive, or at the elementary level, Seesaw with a manual account, yes. But as far as log in and get everything in there, no.
So this is going to allow them, let's say you've got your first grade class and it's individual login, but you have 10 of your first graders who are actually reading on the second grade level. They can actually access that second grade. So they're not being held back, getting bored because they're
And
Very
it's all
good.
gamification. I don't know if you played any of the games, but in the math, they're what are called shapies. And in the reading, so as you begin and you play your first game, it's really a pre-assessment. It's what it's doing is saying, okay, where do you fit in this game? And then you start there. And as kids have stronger days and not as strong days on different skills and different concepts, it adjusts the game for them.
Does it store that information for you? So okay, so that's another tracking opportunity.
So as a teacher, if they wanted to, as a secondary data point that they would use, let's say we've done a common formative assessment on a skill on one-to-one correspondence, for example. Then I could go into, I've got my common formative assessment data, but then I really want to see if this is an issue. I could pull there if they wanted to, their data from this on that skill. It'll show me how many times they attempted it. And it'll show me when they mastered it. It'll show me times when they reviewed it and if they continued to master it.
Very good. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I had 3 questions to start with, so you've got 2 left for me.
That's fine.
So how much time in these effective grade levels, so we're talking from kindergarten, first and second, right? Are they currently spending on reading and math off of a screen?
Oh, quite a bit.
Okay.
In there, because we try to make it only one digital rotation of a center a day.
Okay.
So quite a bit.
And lastly, are we working towards consistency? So since, I've only been here like 9 months, but it sort of concerns me a little bit that it seems like we're not doing maybe the most excellent thing we've found that works across our varying, David Brewer and Henry, et cetera, for the same grade level, using the same program, implemented the same way by the staff to make sure every student, whichever class they're in, they're getting the best our district can give them in that particular. Does that make sense?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
We try to be really at the district, very
Yeah.
consistent and equitable in what
Yeah.
we provide for every kid, no matter who your teacher is or what building you attend.
Well, this
So,
would go a long way to solve that.
Right. That's
So
what-
I think-
that's
I think
kind of
one of the
point
things that
for
may be
this.
something that could allude to this is because we haven't had a district sponsored, it might be more school sponsored and that's, or more individual teacher, like I said, signing up for
Right.
a free account. In this saying K2, here are some math and reading. This is something that for those literacy centers, those independent rotations, that, we would like to see your students on. This is the website, this is the game, this is the resource.
So this is going to be in all schools that have
K2.
K2. Very good. Because I do know we have a couple of schools, this one may be using this program, while this principal may be using this program. And I often wondered how everyone was getting a equal opportunity to have the best. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Since it is Title I, I'm assuming we have options in choosing what we want to do this with. So were there any other options that we looked at that were as good as this one?
Not as good as this one, in my opinion. Yes, I looked at several different. I started in May when we were at a conference similar to what you were discussing with OPA, but and set up meetings afterwards. Some of the ones that I looked at, eSpark is another one that I looked at. Has some similar features, except for it got to a point where you had to have more of that direct instruction before you could move any kind of forward motion. With my math and my reading, if it says you need direct instruction in this one area, it'll take you to a different path. So it'll review some skills. It will test you on maybe a geometry instead of a statistics type standard in there. Reflex math, I looked at that because it's pretty popular with some of our teachers, but it is literally only math fluency on facts, which I'm not saying that's not important. That's a huge component of numeracy. And then another one that kind of looked at that's really popular that some teachers use is SumDog, and just the coverage of standards as well as the rigor wasn't there.
Thank you. No, we're not making this mandatory. It's available. Is that correct? So if a teacher found that there was some part of that, like she really wanted or he really wanted to focus on math, they still could use those other systems if they chose.
The one thing I would say is similar to, I think someone said in here, I want every student in our district to have access to the best resource.
Right.
So in that, what I would like to invite is if there's a teacher's like, no, I really want to use Reflex Math instead of this, I'd ask for them and me to, let's have a conversation and let's discuss why. And then make the best decision for the kids based on the information we have. Because as I said, we try really hard as a district to make sure every student has equitable access to the highest resources.
That's a good answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it possible to game out of this program to where they would look for, or they get bored with this style and need
That was
something
one of the-
different to?
That was one of the
engage them again?
questions. And I guarantee you, I'm going to have about 6 kids who, in that. And when that happens, that's something that's like an exciting thing for me to try to figure out. The actual math and reading go up to about a 7th grade level. So we would need a 2nd grader scoring at about a 7th grade level on it. Now, it's not 7th grade content or themes, just skills.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the My Reading, My Math Academy in the amount of $125,400 with the purchase being used from the Title I monies.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Murphy, a second by Mr. Goodman to accept My Reading, My Math Academy as presented. All those in favor? 6-1, thank you. All right. Item 13, excuse me, 13, consideration of Easton Bus contract.
So we've used Easton Bus for the last several years, visiting with, again, with Mr. Powell and Ms. Price when we were setting the agenda. They were wanting some bus comparisons. So we pulled the state average. Easton Bus is currently the 2021-22 contract was actually $353 below the state average, which all the state puts their busing cost into that, including contracted services. I did contact Easton Bus because his brother does, Jeff Kincaid's brother actually runs the routes for Olathe and Shawnee Mission as well. He didn't get back to me on the what their per pupil cost was. So as Beth and I prepared this, you could kind of see in 2021, we were actually $271 higher. That was because fewer kids were riding. And we had an agreement with Easton Bus to make sure their drivers got paid. So that came before the board. And then the year before that, they were $321. So it's kind of an anomaly that we were higher, but the board was aware of that because they made a motion to make sure that everyone was paid equally through all the COVID stuff and the interchange of writing and that kind of thing. And so with that, one other thing I will mention about Easton and with us is that they're very adaptive to like alternate routes we're doing. And there's like agreements made with them that, we can adjust this and adjust that within the contract to cover this. And so until those types of things change, it would be Beth and I's recommendation to the board to continue with Easton Bus. And again, this is for a 1-year contract.
Any questions for Dr. Rose or for Beth?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract.
Second.
For $1,176,088.
Miss Murphy, that's just the special
Actually, it's-
education
Oh.
cost.
Yeah, we need to make a motion, I think, for the annual regular bus transportation. So,
For
If you
the
could amend it.
856,522.
yes, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Wells, a second by Mr. Carney to accept the Easton Bus contract for regular bus transportation. All of those in favor? 7-0, thank you. Right, item 14, consideration, I'm sorry,
We still have a second
I'm sorry.
motion on the,
second, yes. Having a day.
Second.
All right. Okay,
I move the 2023 year, we accept the estimated special education transportation cost, a contract at $1,176,088. And we have a second with Ms. Murphy.
okay. What a day. All right. We have a motion by Mr. Powell, second by Ms. Murphy to accept the special education bus transportation contract with Easton Bus as presented. All of those in favor? 7-0, thank you. All right, item 14, consideration of the forklift purchase for facilities.
Good evening. As provided, a summary, facilities office unloads trucks. We need a forklift. Forklift has become somewhat unreliable. The cost to continue to repair this forklift is just kind of a drain, to be honest. 10 years old. We take good care of it, have it serviced. We think we could probably put it on Purple Wave and make some of our money back. But right now, we did make some calls. Crown was not only the lowest price, but they are also on a state contract. So that is what we're bringing to the board for consideration tonight, is a new Crown brand fork truck out of Lenexa. And they should have that delivered within the next 3 months. They have some of these coming in. So when we're worried about delivery of goods, it sounds like it will be on time. And that amount was $28,508.42, if you were so kind to consider that.
Matt, what's the sort of anticipated lifespan of a forklift?
Actually, they go by hours, and
Okay.
I'll be honest with you, our hour runtime is far lower than average. What we've done is outlived the hours to a point where we get into product.
Obsolescence.
Yes, obsolescence, thank you. And we do that a lot with a lot of our buildings and a lot of our equipment because we do keep them running well. We just run to that point.
Now, I'm not really aware exactly how your forklift works. Is this a battery recharged forklift,
No.
diesel, gas?
It is a natural gas or
Natural.
propane. I'm sorry.
Propane?
Yeah, liquid propane. We have had battery before that does not work well for our industry. Those are more designed for 24-hour shift work, but we are running a propane.
Okay, so since it is propane, who does do our service on the forklift?
I apologize. Mr. Stoke is in charge of that. We've had a couple different companies that do that. I think it might be Reiki's currently.
And is there been a problem getting, because supply chain, C19 supply chain, has it been a problem getting some of the parts that you were needing to be able to get the repairs? Or is it just the parts have gotten so expensive for the repairs? Because that's happening with inflation as well.
I don't believe it has anything to do with supply chain. It's more obsolescence. It's parts that they just do not make anymore
Do not make it.
for this machine.
Yeah.
Equipment.
So we get a new warranty with this one as well.
Correct.
So
It'd be
what's the warranty schedule for this?
It looked like it was a 12-month, 1,000-hour warranty.
Is there a way that we can purchase an extended warranty with
I
this
could check
company?
into that.
I mean, if we're trying to hang on to this, I mean,
Yeah.
that would be my, okay.
Also, is our Auto Tech program qualified to be able to do any kind of repairs like this?
No. I would say not. I can't say that definitely. I would say not because it is a lift. It's a hoist mechanism. It does have to have weight inspections done on it. And we do that with all of our lifts. So we have several different lifts in our inventory, and we do have those checked regularly.
Okay, thank you.
And then, so now that your capital outlay has been reduced, this is still an item that you want purchased on
I do.
that bucket list. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Matt?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of the Crown forklift in the amount of $28,508.42.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Murphy and a second by Ms. Reed to accept the forklift purchase for the new Crown forklift as presented. All of those in favor? 7-0, thank you.
Thank you.
And please let us know what the extended warranty might be. It
Yeah,
shouldn't
if
be
it's a
over
cost, we'll bring it
$10,000,
back to you.
but.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But with supply chain and everything else, extended warranties are getting more attractive.
Well, if it's only 12 months, though,
Yeah, that's
won't do much,
what's that state.
especially the hours usage. I doubt it'd be to our benefit, but we can check it out. All right, item 15, the KESB annual conference.
This is just for information. If you're interested in attending the annual conference, and please let Brenda know. And then as a board, you would, before that conference, probably October, you will need to assign your delegate who would be voting for the board on any of the changes KSB is offering.
And to clarify, you have to actually be an attendee to be a delegate assembly?
That's correct. Yes. You have to be a registered.
Okay, so any other questions for that, about that? Okay,
Can we go ahead and appoint one now, like Ms.
You
Price?
could, absolutely.
Ms. Price, as the board president, are you attending the annual conference?
I am.
I would like to appoint you our delegate.
I have another nomination. I'd like to appoint Vanessa Reed.
Is she attending?
She is signed up.
Okay.
And I think being a new person where other people on the board have attended this at least once, if not twice, and she has longevity compared to elections coming up next year, it will enable the board to be able to carry forward.
So you have a motion for Ms. Price. Is there a second for that? You have a motion for Ms. Reed. Is there a second for that?
Then I guess we
We
put
need
it
a
on the
delegate?
table in
Is
October.
it mandatory?
You have to have a
We
delegate.
have to have one delegate.
If you want to vote, it's not required.
We'll
that
have
the
to,
board
we'll
votes.
have to do it by October if we want to do it.
I'll second it.
Second,
Which
which one?
Vanessa.
So we have a motion for Ms. Price, and it's not going to pass due to a failure of a second.
That's fine. I'm not gonna put myself in.
And then, so now you have Ms. Reed with a second.
Okay. So, we have a motion by Ms. Murphy, a second by Mr. Powell to nominate Ms. Reed as the voting delegate for USD 453 at the November conference. All those in favor? Okay, 4-3. All right. Superintendent report. Dr. Rose.
Okay, right now, these are unofficial numbers. Right now, our enrollment is roughly 3,614 kids. We are preparing, Amy's preparing an enrollment presentation for you in October, so that number may change. But right now, that number looks down, like we're down 60 students with that. So you'll anticipate Amy's enrollment update next month in October. One of the things that Ms. Wells had asked about earlier, and Beth and our food service director discussed, was breakfast, and if we could do more for students at breakfast. One of the things that they will be proposing eventually to the board is possibly giving any student that's on reduced, removing that down to free. So that would help the students that are on a reduced or free to be totally free. So we'll bring more information to you most likely in October on that with a cost analysis of what that would look like. Policy IF, I've already talked about. That will be something we'll work on. We'll work with most likely Mr. Powell on that because he did have that committee and information. So I think his voice would be very important as we redo that. And hopefully we have that to you in the next couple months. The parade for the homecoming is October 7th. So the afternoon of that, we would not be in session. We encourage families to bring students and the ones that aren't part of the float to watch the parade. We've had great success with that, great partnership with the city and our police force to help keep kids safe during that, and keeping intersections clear and safe for passage. So we're excited about that. It's been a good turnout. Hopefully Mother Nature agrees that day as well. One of the things that I hosted last Wednesday was a security briefing from a company. One of the things that you as a board have had lots of conversation on is our security process. If you think of a situation where if you see the old commercial that as the elderly individual that falls and says, "Help, I've fallen, I can't get up," and pushes that necklace button, it has a lot of concept along that. So what this would entail is everybody would have a lanyard. There would be a card similar to this. There would be a button. So right now in our classrooms, and specifically elementary, everything's communicated via radio. So Miss Price is in crisis in second grade. The teacher goes, "I need help in room 106. Everyone knows it's Miss Price. It goes over every radio that's on in that building. Okay. So what this would do is it would, as a teacher, I'm needing crisis. I'm pushing my button. It communicates with the people that need to respond to that room. Principal, vice principal, maybe counselor, maybe recovery room. What that does is it doesn't disrupt every classroom every time we have an incident. And so that's one feature that I'm probably the most excited about on that. But the other feature is I'm in the high school hallway. Say I'm in the social studies wing, which is about as far away from the high school office as you can get. I see somebody trying to enter the building that looks like they carrying a weapon, or that they're not supposed to be there, that it's dangerous. I could push that button continuously, and it automatically sends strobe lights, sends emails, it identifies to us down here and administration that we have an intruder. First responders come in, they automatically know exactly where that's coming from because it's pinpointed to the room and the space that I push that button.
Mhm.
So it automatically puts
So
us in a
It
lockdown
has
type of
a
situation.
GPS on it.
It's not GPS. It's we upload maps to the system, then the system communicates through hubs,
Okay.
through our internet, that it's signals. So everything is basically silent. So the disruption's there, but in an emergency situation, strobe lights go off throughout the building, outside the building, so it notifies outside classrooms. So what I'm doing, and I will send this out to the board, I'm preparing this company that the Fort Leavenworth brought it to us and hosted. They're going to join this process. They said they would come back and do a presentation to the admin in October, and then I would have them come and do a presentation to you as a board what this system would look like. And then we would do some cost analysis to the board at that time. But just so you know that we are looking at different security measures and some that would be more efficient and less intrusive to the disruption of classrooms.
It sounds like, but is it the same system that the school that had the active shooter last year instituted earlier this year? There's at least
in
one school
Olathe,
district, and yeah.
The entire Olathe district
Yeah,
went with this.
that's what I
Yes.
thought.
Yes.
So second question. There was a lot of press on the federal government, Department of Education, providing grants for security in schools just for this kind of a program. Where, do we know where that is?
So one of the things that we talked about, Amy, Beth, and I, is that the safe and secure school grants that you as a board, we believe that we may be able to put monies to that, to this. So then those are renewable grants each year that we believe that has the potential that would cover the cost of this, depending on the extensiveness and the amount of buildings that we put this in. And so rough numbers, and again, this number will change, so please don't hold it to this number, but rough numbers, to implement this system on a yearly basis, you're looking right around $70,000.
And can we do it incrementally?
You can do it by building. We could start with the high school. We could start with the elementary. We cannot do a building. But every building that you, regardless of the amount of students, because it's averaged out.
Mhm.
So like if we just started with the high school, that building would be higher independently as opposed to if we did it district-wide.
Right.
Um, And so they would break those numbers down for you. But it seemed very promising. And there was, Lansing is considering it. Pleasant Ridge is considering it. I talked with Tonganoxie superintendent who wasn't able to be here. He's going to come to the presentation to the high school or to the DLT team, which is all the admin. So there's a lot of interest in that. Again, I'm looking at it because of the disruption from the radios on a regular basis. And so we're hoping to get that solidified with a deal that honestly I believe communicates and gives information as needed as opposed to everyone getting information that they don't need.
And you say if we did this in all our buildings together, it's ballpark $70,000. How much is the full grant that we're supposed to be getting for second
So
secure
it's a
schools?
matching grant, and I want to say it's 138,000. 129.
We've been awarded already. 129 is a match,
So these about 59,000 for increased
Right.
cameras and things like that.
Correct.
Thank you.
And then the last thing I have for the board this evening is Mr. Powell at the last meeting was talking about driver's education. One of the things Beth and I have talked about, you can't pull money. I can't take money out of the driver's education fund and pay a math teacher for that, right? So it has to be spent within driver's ed. One of the things that Beth and I are working on, and she's doing some calculations, if we would waive driver's ed fees, for a 5-year period, what would that look like? And let a board 5 years from now decide if they want to re-implement that, or is maybe it's a 3-year window, maybe it's year to year. The other thing you can do with that, so out of the driver's ed fund, you can pay drivers, you can buy cars, you can buy simulators, you can pay for expenses that are geared around driver's ed. And so that's the only way that the money that you were talking about, Mr. Powell, that's the only way you could go grab that money is by not taking in any money and expending what you have until you get to a floor that the board's comfortable with, which to me would be 2 car replacements at that point in time. And then any salary adjustments that the board would want to make, that could hit, that could dwindle fairly quick.
The other question was, can we use this funding for bonuses for certifying staff?
To hire teachers to teach within driver's ed.
Right.
If the teachers, the negotiation team would agree to that, you can incentivize teachers and possibly even help with some certification issues.
Because isn't that part of the problem?
It
Getting
is.
certified teachers.
There's only right now, I believe the only university in the state that offers the driver's ed endorsement is Pitt State. Is that correct? I think that's right.
Could you remind me how much we have in that fund? Was that?
There
how
was
much was it?
200 and
$250,000. So again, we could set our fees are $200 for driver's ed, correct? So rather than waive it for 5 years, we could reduce it by 50%, give some relief so people could feel like it's more affordable at 100 and then still have a cushion in case we needed to replace 2 cars.
Right. So we can bring some options to the board for you to consider. But I just wanted you to know that we heard what the
Yes.
discussion was.
Thank you. I appreciate
And to
that.
bring it back to the board.
And there is some value to have parents financially engaged in getting their kids there to the training. So that's a good point.
God knows I need Claire all teaching mine.
And one last point, it's a side note, but maybe it's a good point to address it. If Penn State is the only one
Pitt State.
that is teaching this, what can we do as a board to take this back to the state board and say, what's going on with the Board of Regents? How can we get down to where we only have one state institution that's teaching this, but yet we need this for our kids? What can we do?
You can reach out to your state board members. Also attend state board meetings and sign up. They have a sign up to address the state board as well. And then get possibly some of your local legislators to take this on as something that they would like to see as well.
But then what I would ask is you're not just only preparing these alternatives, you're preparing some ammunition for each of us as a board, or as the board, to take leadership and go do that before the state board.
We can do that.
I have one other question, and I may be dating myself. We don't currently have a simulator, do we?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay. Have we ever looked into where you rent a simulation truck where it comes in for a 1-day course? There's like 18 seats.
I cannot speak for the teachers and the building administration, but that has not come to me as far as a request.
I just know
Yep.
that's what we did 100 years ago before, when we got rid of our horse and buggies.
And the stagecoach to deliver mail.
Put all the buggy whip makers out of work.
Thanks, Mike.
I think
Thank
there's some virtual programs coming down the pipe.
The Momo wheels.
I guess
Thank
as
you.
part of your proposal is like that. Do we want the virtual stuff? Do we need to look at simulation? If it's a physical thing, is it something we keep resident or is it something we bring in?
Okay.
It's just options. I
Yeah, it's a
guess.
good question, because in prior life, we did find that those kind of simulations would not teach them to drive, but they would teach decision-making. And that's almost as important as driving.
All righty. Thanks, Dr. Ruth. All right, next item 17, the executive session for non-elected personnel
Hello,
and a bio break.
and a potty break. Gotta go. It's 7:42. Can we wait till 7:45?
You can add the 3 for the bio break.
Yeah, okay, so we'll have 5 minutes, so it would be 8:03.
Sure.
Madam President, I move that we go into executive session, discuss non-elected personnel pursuant to the exception under the Kansas Open Meetings Act in order to protect the privacy interests of the individuals to be discussed, and that we return to open session in this room at 0:83.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Powell, second by Mr. Goodman to go into executive session. All those in favor? 7-0.
And we invite Dr. Roth, Amy Sloan, and Board Attorney Robert Ingela into the meeting.
Please take your bio break first.
Thank you.
Yes?
Staffing report is received.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Murphy, a second by Mr. Goodman to accept the staff report as received. All of those in favor? 7-0, thank you. All right. So to highlight some upcoming meeting dates and other key dates for school. Half day of school on the 28th of September, that last Wednesday. October 7th, the half day for homecoming. Our next board meeting will be on the 10th of October. And then the workday parent-teacher conferences will be October 26th and 27th.
What is the parade start time?
2 o'clock.
Are they doing the one through town, downtown?
Yes.
Starting at Haymarket.
Starting at Haymarket,
Okay,
ending at the community center.
Just to remind everybody, the 21st is when we do the enrollment count, that then we report.
September 20th.
20th is count day. All right, moving on to 1902, unscheduled patron input. I have one for Mr. McGowan. And just a reminder, sir, there's a 3-minute limit. You'll get a reminder at 15 seconds.
Good evening. My name is Mac McCowan and my son attends Warren Middle School. We all know there's a problem with our tax system and it's not all your fault. That said, I was watching and listening to the meeting while I worked tonight and I wanted to come and thank the board for their vote on this revenue neutral. Really appreciate it because the taxpayers that fund this school almost always get the short end of the stick. And you put that on hold with your vote this evening, and I thank you for that. The great thing about these revenue neutral hearings at city, county, and school board level is that it's awakened some of our citizens, myself included. And it makes us question if we're receiving the level of service commensurate with our tax burden, and that's a good thing. So change occurs with an informed and active citizenry. And I really appreciate the part the board played in that this evening and in your past one. So thank you. Ms. Murphy, I also want to publicly thank you for your willingness to stand alone during all the masking nonsense in the past couple of years. Here locally and across the nation, groupthink and blind obedience to authority, and sometimes just perceived authority, led to 2 years of needless, self-inflicted, and degraded educational settings for our students, our faculty, and our parents. You were right from the start, and you've been proven right with each and every month, and I appreciate what it took for you to stand alone in those times, so thank you. Ms. Reed, I also want to thank you for your similar quality to speak up on issues that are or could be controversial, and I hope it continues. I'm thankful for that. You don't appear to be interested in becoming part of the system, but improving the system. We have all seen what happens when elected officials and bureaucrats become part of the system, and the end result at all levels of government is usually increased regulation, less freedom, and higher taxes. So thank you. Please keep up. And Mr. Powell, I'm going to thank you again for your recent civic engagement. It has nothing to do with anything you've done on the school board because I've disagreed with you a lot. But for those of you that don't know, Mr. Powell, on less than 2 days' notice and without hesitation, agreed to moderate an event with elected officials and citizens, a forum on the constitutional amendment, Value Them Both, which ensured that Kansas citizens were better informed prior to casting their ballot. And so I appreciate what you did for our community. And over 2,300 people either attended or watched that online. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to 1903 board member comments. Ms. Reed?
I want to thank Laura Batson on that item that she presented. There was seemingly, to me, a lot more information presented on the slides that we received for research, and I appreciate her extra time in researching the company before it was presented. And I just want to thank all of our staff again. We're about a month in, and I just want to thank them for everything they do every day to take care of the students in their care and increase their education.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Goodman?
Just to echo that, I'd like to thank the staff. All three of my kids are now currently in high school, so you have to deal with all of them. But I get comments from teachers. I get comments from my children about how much they enjoy school, and not so much from my youngest, but I'm sure he'll grow into it, and that's because the staff has been doing a great job over there. So I appreciate that, and that's all I have.
All right, Ms. Murphy?
I want to say what a great start to this first month has been. We've been watching teams out practicing. We've already had a winning football game. At least I think they won. This crowd sounded like they did.
2-0.
Well, the home game's the one I could hear. I want to say, I know we have some huge learning loss, just like every other child and every other school district across the nation, including emotional delays in our kiddos because of C-19. I want to say I do see a light at the end of the tunnel because of the tremendous programs that we offer within our district, not just our educators in the classroom, which are stupendous, not just our staff, which is our supportive, and our substitutes and office workers, but our tremendous programs, because not only are our coaches with JROTC, the drill teams, the football teams, basketball, but you have DEC and the other ones. And these coaches and educators are actually the mentors, and they're the ones that are helping to pull these kids up and forward, to help with those emotional delays, to help with the anxiety, to help with their self-assurance. And the more we can get kids involved into these programs, the more that they're going to lighten and grow and maybe be able to overcome some of these delays. So kudos to all of them that are helping our kids, and our tutors, any teachers that are staying and tutoring with them as well. I'm excited about the food. Not not because I love food, but just because I know how colorful and bright and I think the kids, it's going to be well received. And I'm looking forward to what the rest of the year has to offer. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carney?
Well, I hate to belabor this issue, but I'm going to. The revenue neutral, I just wish that people would go and if they can get an audience with the legislators that we have in this community to find out why they haven't rescinded the local option budget. That started in 2001, and we had to do that because the legislature would not fund us, any school district in Kansas, to what was affordable or equitable. It took, 15 years of the lawsuit. It finally got resolved, but it didn't really get resolved because we still do the local option budget. And it's unequitable for that because if you're down in Olathe, you get $8 million from your community. Here, we're 3 million, something like that. And what's the mill at? 13 mills. Be a real easy fix. The other thing is they need to maybe get on the ball and one of the things that could maybe help our recruitment for teachers, because a lot of people know you go to Kansas, when you retire, there's no COLA. And I think most of us in here that have been a government worker, military, anybody in the state other than capers get COLAs. Missouri does it. How they do it? They do it because they're taking the lottery money and putting it in education. Kansas was supposed to, but they didn't. So talk to your legislators about big ticket items like that. Mrs. Murphy got up and made a passionate thing about how this thing was going to turn around people's lives. For a $170,000 house, you're going to get $6 a month out of the revenue neutral money. So we got to make sure we got all the facts straight on what's real and what's not real and what's more important. And on a lighter note, 8th grade boys won their football game tonight. I had to leave at halftime. It was tied and they ended up winning by 30-14. Of course, our varsity doing good, but we'll see when they start playing the big boys. But I think they're going to do all right. We got some great kids. There's a lot of good athletes out there. I didn't get to go to the Topeka game, but I went to the first home game, and there's some tremendous athletes out there on the field. And, good sportsmen, even more important. So anyway, I'm done.
All right, Ms. Wells?
First, I'd like to start by thanking our generous donors. There were three or four, I apologize, substantial gifts already this school year. And it's very appreciated. Thank you. When we look to the calendar building for next year, I would encourage us to make sure that all of our teachers and building administration are being asked what they would like to see. I have heard so many people want to know why the board made the decision to go to these half days for professional development instead of having the full days like we had before. And so I would really hope that there would be additional conversations in regards to that. At a future board meeting, I would really like to look at our dress code. It definitely doesn't have to be now or in time for, when do we do the dress code again for the student handbook? Is it next summer?
Usually, yeah, June, July.
Okay. I would like to see the board dedicate some work sessions around that policy and engage students and staff administration as to what they would like to see that look like. And then site councils have started. If you're not already involved in your school site councils, please contact the buildings and get that information, get involved. There's great information that is provided at those meetings. And most of them back up to or following a PTA meeting afterwards, where you can definitely help out within your school and make an impact and also build great relationships with fellow parents. I would love to see our community pack the streets of Delaware and for our homecoming parade at 2:00. The kids will be out. If you have the opportunity to come, take a half day from work, come and be there for the 30, 45 minutes that the parade will take. and just see our kids shine. They're out there, they put a lot of work into their floats, and they take pride, and we as a community need to be there to show their and share in their pride as well. And as to the budget hearings that we did tonight, I think Mr. Darling said everything perfectly, and I agree with him. And that's the end of my comments.
Thank you. Mr. Bell?
Yeah, I'd like to just take the opportunity to again thank our teaching and learning staff. And I know that it's more than that. It reaches out into mentoring and helping in the classroom, the whole spectrum of what's done there. And I think it's one of the things that make us unique. And it gives me hope that we're going to address the literacy issue. Because I just, we've talked about money now. We just beat it to death over the last 60 days. It's that time of year. But I would just hope that all of us, remember that if we make a literate kid, they can learn for themselves. And I think that Ms. Laura is deeply committed to that. And Laura, I appreciate all your work on this and continuing effort, the software programs we were talking about to extend that boundary in every way that we can. Literacy. And that leads me into what we did with this last budget change. Yes, we decided to take some risk financially, but I want to make sure everybody understands that it doesn't get misnamed. And that is that if you look at it, it was out of one fund. And it's a fund where we as a board, not the district, but we as a board are responsible for accepting risk. How much insurance we set aside, self-insurance, all those other things that are in there. Do we get band uniforms again this year, or do we wait a year? Those are things that we did not take a single dollar away from. Preparation of students, supporting our academic literacy program, even supporting our sports program, other than maybe the uniforms they wear. So I just want to make sure we're careful here that this wasn't accidentally done, and it wasn't to make a political point, at least not on my part. It was trying to be a good member of our community, because it's everybody. And so I would also, I told everybody here, and I told Dr. Roth, there's no secret with me. And I'll just tell everybody right now that as we go into this year, there was a reason why we did this, really, particularly this year. But next summer, we're going to have to look at it. We're going to see what we didn't do. Matt's going to have to come back and tell us, this is what I didn't do because you made that decision. Here is the risk to the programs we want to do because it didn't make that decision. And it may be a totally different vote next year, at least on my part, because it should be an informed vote on how we get back to where we can do the things that we want to do, because we know it makes a difference in students' lives. So just for everybody, we did not take anything from any of the direct academic programs. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so first off, I always do this thing about the school buses, but it's not just be aware of the school buses, but be aware of all the children that are out there, regardless of where you are, but all the school zones. We have had an accident happen, and unfortunately a child was injured. So please slow down in any school area and around any school bus, please, because our kids' safety is paramount. If they're hurt, they can't learn. Last week I got to attend the LHS Site Council. It was really exciting. Mr. Vanek, he had lots of great things to brag about. And one of the brags was basically that of the state testing last year for 10th and 11th grade, we either met or exceeded state standards. So in English, we exceeded, and in science, we met, and we closed the gap in math that was 8 points, and now it's only 4. When they look at the statistical requirements, essentially, we're meeting them. So I was really proud of that. It means our students haven't given up, our teachers haven't given up, they're doing a great job in the classrooms. One of the things, especially about the math program, is that they're in the particular class, it was a long-term sub because of shortages, and they were still able to learn a lot and close that gap. And so for their perseverance, keep it up. It's good stuff. Just please join your site councils. I can't say that enough, because you'll learn a lot of good things, and you'll build good relationships with the folks who are there. We have had a great first few weeks of athletics. Got to attend soccer games, football games, proud of all our pioneers. But I'm also really proud of all of our support teams, if you will. So the ROTC color guards, the cannon crew, They really boost up the oomph at a game and the band. They did a great job first outing. I know it's not perfect, but I think we've got a lot of great things to be proud about, being pioneers. So I thank all of our students and all of our coaches/teachers that are working with those groups, because make them the best they are. Remind all the board members, please see Brenda before you leave, because you've got to sign the original budget resolution. And that's it. Adjourned at 8:27. Go Pioneers.